Brother Adams, Brother Hicks, my brothers of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. I must say that I'm truly honored this evening. I must also say that I was a bit surprised when Brother Whiteman told me that the committee considered having me as a keynote speaker at this event. Why, I wondered, would this group of brothers want to hear from me? What could I possibly tell them? What could I say to help realize the greater achievement that is already represented in this room? After reflecting upon what Kappa Alpha Psi hinges its name upon, training for leadership since 1911, I thought it best that I speak on the notion I refer to as everyday leadership. At the beginning of my first year as a building principal, I gave my teacher some advice that I acquired from a man named Drew Dudley. Mr. Dudley is the founder of Nuance, which is a leadership development service for communities, organizations, and average men and women. Nuance is based on the idea that leadership is not only for the extraordinary, but for everyone. Mr. Dudley says, we have put leadership on a platform to the point that you have to have a title to be a leader. He's right. When we hear the word leader, most of us probably think of President Obama, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, or maybe a general in charge of his troops. Some of us here might think of leaders like our Grand Postmark William Bates Jr., or Brother Adams, or Brother Hicks. But few, if any of us, hear the word leader and think of ourselves. Think of our parents. Think of our local ministers. This is what I reminded my teachers. Each one of us stands on a platform of leadership. Every day, people are watching you, people are listening to you, and oftentimes, they're crafting themselves to be like you. On a scale that is large, from a platform that is vital, teachers are essential leaders. And when their leadership is strong, its heart is hope. A teacher lives in hope, embodies hope, conveys hope. A teacher recognizes the hope that every child represents. A strong teacher sees a potential leader in every child and calls it out, so that students can see the leaders in themselves, so they believe. Now let me be clear, brothers. When I say teacher, I'm of course speaking of those adults that are in a classroom of about 25 students, Monday through Friday, August to May. But the term teacher also refers to the citizens of all of our communities, the parents, the social workers, members of the clergy, anyone directly charged for the care and welfare of a person. A large part of anyone's leadership depends on words. There is power in words, so verbally, we should always set our goals. But there is greater power in actions, and I have found that in planning one's actions, it's best to start with the end in mind and work backwards. For example, I always knew that I wanted to make the greatest difference I could in the lives of people. So when I came to see myself as one day possibly being the superintendent of schools, I worked back from that vision. Now, of course, to attain this goal, I had to start my career in education as a classroom teacher. My experiences in the classroom were preceded with time I spent as a tutor for several years in Columbia, Missouri, working with lower income middle school students. I also spent some time working with the local Boys and Girls Club. These experiences helped me to realize that I especially want to make a difference in the children who are routinely written off because the socioeconomic status of their families is lower than most people's. It is constantly said, and I've even heard it said by current educators, these kids can't learn because they don't have much money. Now I tend to view the world through rose-colored lenses, so when I hear these disheartening words, I try to think that the speaker really means that these kids have not been afforded the valuable experiences that will help them learn at a higher rate, such as early childhood learning, trips to the museum, or having stories read to them as children because mom couldn't read, just like grandmother couldn't read. I like to think that those who say poor kids can't learn are merely acknowledging the obstacles common to families in our society and economy who have been left behind. Indeed, I have another pair of even rosier glasses. When I put them on, I see those who despair of poor kids learning themselves that with their help, our communities and educators can gain the knowledge, support, and tools they need to beat tough odds, overcome the obstacles, and break through cycles of hopelessness to educate all of our children well. Now, I know I'm coming from an educational standpoint of this, but stick with me. I promise I'll make it relevant to you, a little bit more relevant than just the word education. I posit this, some might say, too rosy scenario because I've seen it done. I remember the students that I think I enlightened, and I hope I inspired in my years of teaching. The third grade student who couldn't read and had no support at home because his single mom couldn't read. We needed to compensate for that. So I worked with the counselor, the family school liaison, and the principal, and we developed a plan where not only were we helping that student be successful, but we were also helping mom to learn to read, to also help him be successful. Today, that student still struggles to read. He's still in my building right now. But he's growing and reading better every day. His confidence is growing, and he now strives to do his best. He shows us the hope we can have for our children who are disadvantaged. I remember the 6th grade student I worked with who couldn't do simple multiplication. After working with her, not only was she able to move past that stumbling block, but is currently on track for graduating from the University of Missouri with a degree in mathematics education herself. They both show us what ordinary people can do when we have hope. I grew up in circumstances that some might have called impoverished. I was a free lunch kid. We used food stamps. Dad dropped out of high school. Mom wasn't enthused about school, but managed to graduate. I had not been exposed to a lot of things beyond my own neighborhood. But education, a strong faith in who God and who Jesus Christ is, and a solid work ethic was instilled in me by my parents as a powerful means to change my circumstance. Now I know that some of you in this room can relate to this. And in spite of similar challenges, you were able to demonstrate your wherewithal and overcome the obstacles that many would deem as the masters of your faith. I was inspired by my 4th grade teacher, Mr. Sotir, to become a teacher myself, although at the time I did not foresee myself working in education. As a teacher, he was tough. He held us accountable for everything we did. He supported us when we needed it and chastised us when we needed that too, but he always did it with compassion. He didn't let our free or reduced lunch status get in the way of him teaching us. And he didn't let it get in the way of us learning. He wouldn't accept the claim that, well, no one was home to help me with my homework, so I didn't bother to try. He had hope for us. Hope that I know exists in the hearts of you brothers here tonight. Hope that I know exists in the communities you serve and live in. A passion that exists within all of us who are charged with raising children and ensuring they have the best lives possible. Sometimes, though, we let our own fears, our own failures, or our own setbacks get in the way of thinking that we can help our young people do more. The hope that my parents had for me and the hope that Mr. Sotir exemplified when I was in his 4th grade class lives on. Despite disheartening conditions at Riverview Gardens, where I attended all of my kindergarten through 12th grade years, some of you brothers are familiar with Riverview Gardens, such as Ryan Holmes, another Riverview Gardens alum. Riverview is in the St. Louis metro area for those that aren't familiar, and has been in the news recently. 96% of its 6,000 students are African American, and 93% of them qualify for free or reduced lunch. The quality of education at Riverview Gardens has declined over the years, and in 2007 it lost its state accreditation. This loss, and the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education's assessment of lack of progress over the past 6 years, required the school district to offer parents the option of having their children attend school in the neighboring district. Riverview chose Melville for a myriad of reasons. Now, Melville is 20 miles away from Riverview Gardens, so some students who opt for the commute have to leave their home as early as 5:30 a.m. Transportation provided to and from school isn't quite so flexible, so most students can't engage in extracurricular activities. If they do and can find their own transport, they don't get home until about 8 o'clock, with little or no time for homework or to study for college entrance exams. As you can see, this is not as beneficial to students as the idea may seem on the surface. Unfortunately, on the other side of the state where I am, the Kansas City School District is not far behind Riverview Gardens' fate. A little less, actually, than a quarter of Riverview Gardens' parents chose to have their children commute to Melville. The other 3/4 of the parents believe that the answer to their blighted circumstances can still be found in their own community, and that outsourcing students to another district is no solution. On the first day of school, many parents were at the schools to welcome the students who stayed in the district. Despite the serious problems their district is facing, these parents still believe, refusing to give up hope in themselves, their children, and their neighbors. It is our responsibility as Black men training for leadership, through our local, state, and federal government, through our educational system, through our churches, and through our citizenship as men of Kappa Alpha Psi. It is our responsibility to affirm those parents' hopes, to work together and persist until the hope of Riverview Gardens and every district like it can be realized. Now, Black History Month came to conclusion just a short month and a half ago, and the nation reflected upon the accomplishments and contributions that African Americans made to this country. While it's important to keep the legacies of people like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., my charge to you tonight, brothers, is this. Become involved with organizations such as Big Brothers, Big Sisters, and take time to mentor a child. If Brother Davenport can have the label big, then we all can. As business leaders and public servants, create partnerships with neighborhood schools and work with students as a tutor. Organize study halls or tutoring sessions for the young students in church, and invite parents that need help with learning to read or study for their GED. Reach out to our young African American boys and young men and help them see that they are needed in our schools. Make contact with your state representatives and vote in every election rather than just a presidential race.
All right. All right.
And make your voice heard. Whatever you choose to do, know that it will have a great impact on where we as a society are headed. Now, I know to some this sounds daunting, and the fruits of your labor may not be seen immediately or even in your lifetime. I know that there are those that say sounds great, but will never get there. And I know that some sit on the sidelines fearing failure. Confronted with such doubts, I often think of words by the author, Marianne Williamson, words that I will leave you with this evening. Quote, "Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that frightens us most. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, or fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightening about shrinking so other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine, as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fears, our presence automatically liberates others." End quote. You have so much to offer this world. Don't be afraid to shine. To Ms. Williamson's thoughts, I will add a single, simple phrase, advice that I learned long ago. Whether the act is big or small, be a blessing to someone every day. It's not a complex formula, and it doesn't take huge gestures to do so. But if we follow it, we all can be everyday leaders, powerful beyond measure. God bless you, brothers.